Hi everyone at ICD, the Institute for Capacity Development at the IMF, International Monetary Fund. I hope you're enjoying your vacation during the shutdown. Your lockup, because that's where all of you are going to actually end up when this thing's finished. You know, I said in 2015 when Adrian wanted to throw ICD into this whole, cesspool, and I was like, okay, fine, you guys want to join the bandwagon? Go ahead. I mean, you all know all that I've been doing, all of my work trying to get good governance in this town, which is what you all should be doing, instead of, your window dressing training programs. I mean, come on. Even you see with your own assistants, you train. You can't train people. This is what I told Gina Pione when I left. I said, Gina, human resource management, #1 rule is finding people with brains. You can teach. I mean, this whole thing about, diplomas and PhDs and MBAs and certificates and train. I even heard of, when I was at Chez Paul, behind the IMF one time, so some of the economists saying, I don't think this training is having such a good effect. Of course not. You got 70 to 90% incompetence and stupidity rates within your professions across the board. You can't train immoral, amoral, stupid people how to do their jobs. That's what they should have learned when they were in school. But since they're all social climbing and power hungry and narcissists, and everybody's buying into this narcissistic paradigm that's been promoted since the 80s by Nancy Reagan on the right, and Cornelia Guest and the cocaine-snorting libertines on the, Nancy Reagan on the right, the cocaine-snorting libertines under the lead of Cornelia Guest, debutante of the decade. And that's why, as Chris Hedges says in his book, Death of the Liberal Class, all you care about is getting to the parties and getting invited and, fornicating and I mean, my lord, this town is one big frat house with whores and pimps all over the place. Dominique Strauss-Kahn, that's standard fare. That's going on all of the time. All the wives at the IMF know that. All the wives at the World Bank family. I mean, I know that from the time with them. And I know that from the time that I was here in the 80s. I mean, all of you people think you're coming to El Dorado and this great center of learning and democracy. Washington is a backwater cesspool and has been since it was taken over by the robber barons, in the 1800s. And that's, in fact, if you look at all of the alumni from Foxcroft, there's the Mars family, I don't know, it's everyone who's everywhere, with the robber barons. I mean, Cornelia was supposed to be the closest thing that this country had to royalty, and that's how she started the whole social media stuff, which then morphed into Paris Hilton, who, you seen the porn stuff on the internet with her? I mean, my lord, getting out of a car with no underwear. I mean, what kind of example? Of course we have the Jeffrey Epsteins and the Ghislaine Maxwells. I mean, Anne Sinclair is no different than Ghislaine Maxwell, is the IMF Family Association, is the World Bank Family Network, UN-LESA, Federation of American Women's Clubs overseas. What do you think Global Expats is all about? It's been calling out these women. doing all you social climbing. If you go to a country, you know, it's not just to hang out in country clubs and go shopping and shopping and shopping. I mean, I have more of a sense of obligation, you know, in the not just in the United States, which is my home country, but France. I have a French nationality, and I'm a naturalized France citizen. This gets into the crap that's going on in France. It's the exact same thing. My children are Spanish, so I also, and I lived in Europe. I mean, for me, I've been telling the Europeans for forever, since the 80s. I moved there in the 70s, in the mid-70s. You guys think jet setting makes you like all this intellectual and learned. You guys don't travel. You take airplanes. You go from one meeting to another. You go to one hotel to another. You don't know anything about the countries or the people, or not even your own, it appears. I mean, this is one of the examples I'm making with Mark Lewis and his ex-wife, who I'm not totally positive, but I'm pretty sure that's a Turk. Her maiden name is Turkish, so she's a from a Turkish immigrant. I mean, I always had hopes that Turkey would enter into the European Union as the bridge towards the Muslim world. And look what's happening in Europe. It's falling apart just like in the United States for the exact same reasons. And I was there when the seed was planted by Cornelia, my God. I mean, she, when I got back from my junior year at Foxcroft, somebody told me she dropped out. I was like, you've got to be kidding. I mean, how could her parent, a high school dropout, in an age where you better get at least a bachelor's? And now, you think they just flood the market with more and more diplomas. It's just a money-making business. So anyway, all you guys came to Washington to cash in, and I mean the literature of the expat, human resource stuff and studies even shows that. What motivates you all. You can go on to my, it's all on my business plan. I've got also, everybody says it's the best business plan they've ever seen. Everybody's getting $100 million thrown to them here and there. I mean, one of the things, the jobs that I applied for recently, by this time I'm just documenting the discrimination, and I know how to do this, and I know how to do that, and I know how to do this, and I know how to do that, and they won't even give me an interview. This idea that you can't discriminate against me because I'm white and I'm American shows to how, and that I can't find any lawyers to challenge that, shows that, to what extent this country has just gone to hell. And the legal community is out to, totally out to lunch. I mean, you all know I've been trying to take my case against Spain, which implicates the Americans and the French. Even your own reports, the UN report, says that cross-border cases offer the opportunity to challenge violence against women and children, from one government to another, and you get rid of the sovereignty rights issue there, and nobody will do it. You're all out to lunch, you're all too busy going to meetings and attending conferences and giving speeches and publishing your books. I got a whole book, actually several, but I got a book proposal out there. One of the people who got a letter was Lanny Davis. See, Lanny Davis, I mean, one of the reasons, I won't get into that right now, but believe me, my mom was as afraid as you all in 2016 that I would be given a voice. And I'd be raining on everybody's little parade. Oh, God, that was actually it's a big joke. I mean, a sad joke, but I ended up working to the advantage because it put them into some debt, and they ended up in a nursing home under welfare. See, you all... mean, my father started, you know, he's one of the top cardiologists in this world. He started lecturing. You can go onto his LinkedIn profile. It's all out there. You just, like everybody else, don't look beyond your nose. He started, you know, lecturing internationally in Russia and China in the 60s and 70s, and yeah, well, during the Cold War, they told me this story. You know, they were constantly followed, and they had a guide, a tourist guide that was always assigned to them whenever they were in communist countries. And but you know, my father, my mom's a political one, but you know, believe me, no threat there in terms of that, you know, high level. She's the deep state. Everybody goes deep about the deep state. Well, look into Nancy Reagan and Cece Guest and Cornelia, and then women like my mother, and her efforts to destroy my political ambitions in the 80s, and again since I've been back. See, all the abuse, I know how the abusive women, and this is why I'm having so many problems with the feminists hate me. One woman who comes around here, Mary Bolton, oh Lord, you know, one of the men who was here one time, he was like shocked. He said, oh my God, I can't believe how she just attacked you like that. I was like, oh, believe me. I threatened him like you can't believe. I mean, that's why, you know, Adrian's gone after me, Sharmini, this whole sati game that everybody's playing with me, and the deposed trophy wives, and women, you know, opting back into the workplace who could do any of these jobs that you all can do. But of course, it's all about jobs. This is going to really bite you guys in the ass when we come after you under RICO. Because even Betty Friedan said, you know, ladies, this is not my intention to get into the workplace to become as bad and, you know, because women are worse, as the scumbag men in the cesspool. You know, she retired into academia. I keep on telling people, I mean, in 2010, National Coalition Against Domestic Violence lobbyists told me what we need is a new civil rights movement. I said, oh, let's see. Let's get going. Let's move. You gotta. But it takes work. But see, this is where I know from all of the believe me, well, you guys are jet-setting around the world and, you know, schmoozing-n-cruising on taxpayers' money, and your kids are being put through, you know, schools on taxpayers' money, and you're just milking the system, and it's a whole big con job. I mean, the international community is a big con job. Is the Roman Catholic Church has and was, and that's why the victims and the activists are, you know, calling out the Catholic Church, and I'm like, you guys, the international development community, the IMF, World Bank, UN, etc., and all of the think tanks, doesn't matter, right and left, are the same, which is producing a bunch of blah, 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 blah. Even the people who work in these places, you know, think that this is a bunch of, I mean, con job. They're like, well, I don't care. Everybody else is, you know, getting rich off of this. Why shouldn't I? That's how the game works. But you know, I didn't come back to D.C. to cash in. I came back to fight for my rights and fight for, you know, democracy and the principles of democracy. I mean, I knew that was all a con job. That's why I left D.C. in the 80s. See, you know, you social climbing women out there, and I don't care if it's the women who are marrying the rich men, because, oh gosh, I mean, I saw that. My younger sister even told me one time, what did she say? She said, oh yeah, he's kind of strange, but he takes me out to great restaurants. I prefer to go to McDonald's, and if you people know me, I never eat at McDonald's. with somebody interesting or not eat. I don't want than to sit there through an expensive meal with some bore. Believe me, the women in who are, you know, the stay-at-home grappling up trophy wives and sitting at their country clubs. I mean, I know the expat wives clubs have a reputation of being that because that's what they are. Doesn't have to be that way. And that's what, you know, okay, for the moment, I'm still all by myself, because I won't sell out like the rest of you. So, today, now I'm just, I've gotten with the passing of my parents and my father gone, I need a break. So I'm doing some artwork. I'm cooking. I don't eat it. I'm trying to give it away. See, if I was in Haiti, oh my God. See, that's what just disgusts me so much. Yeah, I went to Haiti in 88. My sister was living there. And one of the first things she told me was when we went out, we had to go to grocery shopping. We had to go like 3 or 4 places to do little timing at supermarkets. Forget it. And she told me, she said, I know you. Now I want to be very, 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 very clear. You're going to see some horrible things out there. But you cannot give any money. You cannot give any food. You cannot give anything to any of these people. Because we are 2 women alone. You know, unarmed and we will be mobbed. So you cannot do that. And so I understood. I mean, I'm not, believe me, I'm not, my God, this whole thing of pampered little trophy wife who you know, is afraid of her own shadow is so off the mark, it's not even funny. But it will be imprinted on my mind for the rest of my life, this skeleton of a woman with a skeleton of a baby in her arms, you know, begging, and the flies all around her. I mean, she was half dead. And there was nothing I could do. And I mean, in Colombia, I mean, I was involved in a lot of things. James, my bodyguard, was always, you know, and people always were like, you know, how generous and helpful. You know, I was like, people don't understand. Yeah, I do what I can here and there, but until you stop the tide of where this is all coming from, it'll never end. And anything, you know, that I do is just a patchwork on a single ship. That's what just angers me so much about being back in D.C. and everything that I've seen since I've been back here. Particularly in the past couple of years with Trump's rise to power. I mean, I know, I mean, the thing is, people, you guys, I mean, do you ever look beyond the tip of your noses around you? What's going on? Get your nose out of these smartphones, because that's going to get your little asses in jail, believe me. So I'm not going to go on anymore today. I guess I'll try and make comments to you all. You can, I'm putting together, you know, a little synopsis of what the whole damn case against you all is about. I mean, you've got the stuff of my case against the State Department. That's all on war on domestic terrorism. Then I'm up on Congress, of course, because Congress is supposed to oversee the State Department, as is the White House. We got the letters during the Obama administration. I just haven't had the time or energy to do much with the Trump administration. Let's see, Tillerson did get a letter from me, but Pompeo, got too much right now with my parents, and my landlord once is trying to, as he said, gonna have me out living on a tent in the street. I'm like, okay, everybody's been trying to do that since I've been back. Which, you know, see, Trump, my whole case is show that Trump is right when he says the foreigners are trying to take over this country. It is not the immigrant foreigners at the border. It's all these PhDs and MBAs in Washington, and who are milking taxpayers for all sorts of money. I mean, this is where this is RICO. Because what you're doing is, you're doing it for financial gain, and it is in order to maintain all the corruption that's going on. I mean, God, one of the things, I mean, really, you men, this is a golden case for any lawyers out there, with the little games that all of, you know, Adrian Thapa, Gina, Sharmini, Anna Day, Carla Culetti, Jocelyn von der Hagen, oh my God, the list goes on and on and on, are playing over there, and how it's implicating these men who, you know, I'm sure, like everywhere, most of the men, the directors, what is it, Gerd Schwartz, Andrew Berg, Alan MacArthur before, Dominique Desruel, Ralph Shammy, I forget anybody, oh, and then there's, you know, Robert Powell and Mark Lewis over at GP. The GP is what gets the funding. SE, that GP is the Global Partnership, SE is Strategy and Evaluation. They should be, you know, doing the analysis that I did in 2016 instead of just counting how many courses and training, BS training. I mean, I recently saw something about the, you know, the online training. I sometimes go into yours and the World Bank's, and oh Lord, when I finally get you all into court, and you know, this is the stuff that they're, I mean, what do you guys do? Do you just go onto the internet, copy paste, and we're done? Do you do any research? I mean, you know, all of the research that I did, looking for capital venture money for global expats, and you know, the problems, the real problems that people are having, and crowdsourcing. I mean, that's not, I looked into that in 2014. Sure, if you get a movie and you want to do some promo stuff, it's a good thing. Otherwise, it's basically just there. The platforms are the ones who can really cash in on that thing. But real effective, you know, funding. No, you want a real platform for anything, then you need $100 million. That's what I did the application at Anchor and Consulting, a business developer. I also contacted a lawyer there about mass tort. Never heard back. Well, I'm documenting how everybody is just sitting on their little tuffets while the world spins out of control, because they are too busy self-promoting, and it's just this narcissistic epidemic. I mean, when I read the book by Twang and Campbell, I was like, well, yeah, but what, you think that you're going to publish another book and this is a magic wand and rah, 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 everybody is all of a sudden not going to be narcissistic? This fairy tale land that everybody in Washington and the 10%ers are living in, which, believe me, I've been observing you for almost 60 years now. When reality catch up with you and your offsprings, it's going to be a rude awakening. A rude awakening. But, you know, I mean, I've done everything that I possibly can. My dad was always saying, you know, this is hard. You know, if I had been, take a look at the Kawasaki disease and the thrombosis problems that are going on with the COVID. That's my father's specialty. And he was doing research until the end. You know how many lives and how many hands are going to be lost because all of you people are playing these games? I've tried to find cardiologists when I see the, you know, working on it, but no, this needs to be up at the top. It's a whole frickin' mess. You see with the WHO, I mean, you people are just tomando el pelo de todo el mundo. And the three big problems are managerialism, we got over 100 years of that, affirmative action, alpha dominance, feminism, and basically alpha dominance, you know, amongst all the minorities. It's just grapple up the ladder of success, get into positions of power, and then we got the power struggles between the different factions and cabals. But, you know, the game stays the same. It's a Machiavellian, you know, political game, and a Mandevillean from Mandeville, you know, economic model. Doesn't matter what kind of jobs you produce. It's casinos, you know, promote the whores and the pimps and the drugs and you know, all of that lifestyle, and then cover it up with your conservatives who do their, you know, turn a blind eye to the problems of the world, laissez-faire governance, let them eat cake, however you want to call it, with fine wining and dining. Well, all of their kids are on drugs because they know the parents don't, they're just commodities like everybody and everything else. That's what DC is, and that's what the world, I mean, it's, you know, this is nothing new. It's a pendulum that's been, you know, throughout history. We just get more modern in all of our weapons.
That wasn't an accident.
Listen to this.
That wasn't the president trying to have a debate and failing. If we all walk away from the basic fundamentals of our democracy, something like a presidential debate, if we all say, "Ugh, that's terrible. That's an S show. that's a mess. That is unlistenable. I don't want anything to do with that. Turn that off." Right? It's understandable. Your feelings about that are shared more widely than you can possibly imagine. And talking about it in that way is rightfully, I think, a strong rejoinder to this president in terms of his behavior, making that such a mess that it was unintelligible and a disaster and useless and worth turning off. But our reaction to that, collectively as a country, coast to coast, we saw it in papers all around the country, right? That reaction is also advantage to him. If he succeeds in making Americans believe that politics is a disgusting, pointless, argumentative display that nobody decent should bother participating in, then nobody decent will bother participating in it. It's why it makes tactical sense for him to be boring and incoherent and abusive and denigrating and repellent. It's tactically efficient. If he can make you believe that that's politics, who wants to be anywhere near politics? Let those guys have it. Let that guy have it. That's what's happened to our politics? I don't want anything to do with that. He can have it. That's what he wants. It's also why it doesn't hurt him, he thinks, to be widely recognized as corrupt. That is also disheartening and disgusting, right? It turns us all off this mess, right? Install your family members, your unqualified family members, in political positions. Right? Government's stupid. Nobody actually needs specific skills or experience to hold high-level government jobs. Why not just give them to, you know, the guy who carried my golf clubs and my son's wedding planner and my son and daughter-in-law and any other relatives want anything? They don't qualify for security clearances? Who cares about security clearances? I'm just going to say they should have them. None of this matters. This is all trash work. Doesn't matter if you put trash people in these jobs. It's all just a joke. He benefits when we devalue government. He benefits when we believe that...
See, it's just a trash job. It's all just a joke. This is really, I mean, I even hear it from everybody who works in the think tanks and the NGOs. I mean, the NGOs, they should be setting up cases to take to the courts and produce the jurisprudences that we need, like I've been doing with my casework and trying to get any of them to submit. I can't do everything by myself. I mean, everybody keeps on saying, instead of helping me, Lucy over at Stanford Law, Lucy Herman, she's the director of Public Lab or something. You know, as I told her, I'm a barrister. These need to be submitted, and we need to produce the jurisprudence. Laws don't mean anything, or constitutions, and even penal and civil codes don't mean anything if you don't submit. So yeah, it's all a joke to everybody. That's how Trump got in. This is applicable to everybody in Washington. It's coming out. The disease, if you will, has progressed with Trump to the extent where it's you know, blistering open wounds, so you can't ignore it anymore. But even Michael Moore, you know, said Trump is going to be the biggest FU to the world, well, to the, you know, to Washington and everybody that the country's ever seen. But it was also a big FU to the world globally. And it's because people are tired. People are tired of all you bureaucratic little game players. All of this is not error. I just heard Trump is saying that there's fraud and some votes were thrown out, and apparently there was a case of some worker who had thrown some stuff in the trash. Yes, okay, that was an isolated incident. But see, since everybody's using always the excuse with me, oh, it's an isolated incident, and I'm like, no, it's not. Look at the research. Look at the statistics. It's you know, part of a trend and representative of what's going on. I mean, a woman who lives here, she said something about, I don't know, she pulled something out of a hat, and I said, what are you talking about? I said, where are you getting your statistics? Or she was like, no, I don't have any. No, it sounds good. It's like Phyllis laugh. Like, that's what women do. And that's, oh my God, this is what the cacophony has come. This is the feminists who have brought it in. You know, it doesn't matter if there's evidence. We don't look at the evidence anyway, so who cares? Nobody does. You guys, has anybody? I mean, it was amazing in 2016, in October, when I mailed you and Catherine Indri Nelson upped the ante here into political meddling in the U.S. politics. I was like, my Lord, you people. It really does matter who you have, you know, working for you. I mean, it matters who you marry, and it matters who you hire. You do become responsible for what's going on there. The same. I have the same thing with the restaurants I'm working in. All the waiters, everybody's complaining. I'm like, sure, I can argue this. I can put this all together and take this up in a little package, everything with a bow tie, for any lawyer you want, any domain you want. But I don't have all the money. Everybody wants me, you know. What was it, Dean Martin? Dean. Yeah. What? No. It's what is her name? D. Martin, over at Feminist Majority Foundation. She's a lawyer, bigwig law firm and governance, and she's like, yeah, you're right on target on everything you say, just like everybody says. Anybody who looks at anything, nobody's looked at everything. We got one case finally. It's the case in Japan. You all know about that because that started in 2015. Horrible, horrible. $3 billion. So, the winds of war are changing, and the man told me, he said, yeah, it's a JAG lawyer. Said, she was like, oh, this is great. The letters that this woman has written documents that it's systemic, and it works its way up the chain. I said, this is exactly what I've been doing everywhere. And with you guys, same deal. I don't know why, I don't know, Jocelyn, Sharmini, okay, Jocelyn, Elizabeth. I can't wait to see Elizabeth Elliott up on the stand. You guys are going to try and pull that one off? That this is the best and brightest that Washington has to offer? That woman is going to be a basket case by the time they get through with her. Every time she even walks in. And a Rosa? And a day? The list goes on. Charlene? Have fun, you guys. You should take a look at Michael Cohen. Anyway.
That democracy doesn't work and is disgusting. He benefits when we all think that the rules about how this is supposed to happen, those are rules for suckers, right? Regular order about how we're supposed to conduct ourselves as democracy. He wants us to think that that's antiquated, quaint. That regular order never really existed. It was all a scam. Doesn't matter anyway. It's all a boring, stupid, rigged con. Yeah, I'm corrupt. We're all corrupt. We've all been corrupt. Why would anybody decent want anything to do with this system? That's why you see all these things go together. Not only with this president, but in authoritarian leaders all around the world, right? That's why you see corruption and grossness, repellent behavior, boorish behavior designed to turn people off. That's why you see that stuff go hand in hand with authoritarianism. That's part of how it takes over, is that it makes participation in normal politics something no normal person would want to do. It makes it something that only the worst of us can stomach. They like it. President tweeting today that last night's debate was fun. In regular order, in our democracy, which has persisted for well over 200 years, right? We have presidential debates, and we have presidential elections, and we cast ballots, including by mail, and the votes get counted, and that's how we determine who's president. This president believes, he may know, that he can't win under regular order. He can't win if all of those things happen. And so, he wants us to believe that regular order doesn't apply this year, that he's rendered it moot, that it won't be the way that we choose the next president of the United States, not this year. He wants us to give up on it. So bolster yourself, however you need to. Learn more about what regular order is. In your state, do you know how electors are chosen? Every state has its own law, its own rules about how they choose the electors that actually go to the electoral college to have their votes tallied, which is actually what determines who's the next president. Do you know how electors are chosen in your state? Now's a good time to find out. Do you know how the election system is administered in your state? Now's a good time to find out. Do you know who's getting the call if people show up at a polling place somewhere near where you live and they're intimidating voters, they're threatening violence, they're perhaps even carrying out violence? Who's going to get the call to respond to that, to figure out what happens to the polling place that's been shut down or rendered ineffective by physical intimidation tactics? Who's going to get those calls? Who's going to make those decisions? These are knowable things, because these things are administered by the regular order of American elections. The president making it seem like we're not even capable of holding debates anymore because presidents aren't like that anymore is part of him telling us that American democracy doesn't apply this year. That once he's there, we can't do American democracy anymore. We've got to figure out some other way to do this. And I guess this is going to be decided, what, in the courts? Or maybe in the streets? Stand by, right? Get your poll watchers in. The president wants us to believe that American democracy doesn't apply this year, not when he's going to lose if American democracy does its normal work in regular order. Learn.
Okay, so, you know, see, it's funny, and believe me, I know people, you know, right, left, and in my family, it's pretty much the extreme right. I mean, it's, you know, it's amazing. Two of my cousins, one of them, the dumb blonde Baptist Republican, her husband's name is Bubba, no joke, who even came up to Washington, D.C. with the intervention planned with my mother as to the dangers I was doing with my political activism work and vote Hillary campaigns and, I mean, this political persecution. Okay, I mean, I'm not afraid of my mom or my dumb blonde cousin. I mean, my mom, she's burned so many fucking bridges over the years, you know, she got no... I mean, one of the person that she's going to look really bad, I don't know what her story with, you know, what she told Mike Helen. He was one of John McCain's campaign advisors in 2008, and she had asked John McCain to please pick up the frickin' phone and tell the consulate in Madrid to do its job and, you know, turn that into some, you know, PR thing of violence against women and how I'm helping this poor woman and all she wants to do is start a company to help people and help expats and her husband wants to kill her for it. And the courts and her lawyers are, you know, on board. And it's a company that can make $1 billion a year because, I mean, it's the same model as Facebook. I mean, that's what, you know, the lawyer later on said, well, you have to prove that the company, you know, you make that kind of money. I'm like, excuse me, Facebook is already doing that. That was the whole thing with this marketing expert, international marketing expert, our neighbor of Bank of America, you know, she said, no, you need to charge for membership. I said, no, you're not going to make any money that way. You offer all of this information for free, and then you make your money off of advertising. That's it, because you'll draw in a huge consumer spending market. I mean, expats, they're the biggest consumers in the world, and they got cash. I mean, shit, they buy everything, and, you know, in basics, not, you know, not the luxury stuff, not most of them. I mean, the Angelina Jolies and Brad Pitts and whatever, that's a minority. Most of the expats, you know, particularly the corporate and the international, those are 10%ers. Even the you know, retirees or most of the expats, unless they're students, are pretty much 10%ers. That's why it's pretty, you know, it's disgusting. I mean, they are the 10%ers, and their immorality and their desire and their narcissism and desire to cash in on the whole thing is what's sustaining the income, increase in income inequality, and the lawyers are the key, you know, the corruption there and the stupidity and negligence and their lack of understanding of the law and embracing, you know, alpha dominance feminism and alpha dominance minorityism, I don't know what we call it, and that's why I'm just like, you know what, I've done what I can do. I don't know, my landlord, I guess it's in God's hands now. I've been a devout agnostic my entire life, but I have come to believe, and I guess I'm in the family business now. Well, I've always been bucking the status quo, so that's nothing new. I've always been a black sheep, so that's nothing new, believe me. That nobody is on board with me, and, you know, I don't have a huge following amongst the 10%ers, the 1%ers who are my, you know, my entourage and have been my entire life. Doesn't bother me because first I know the amount of jealousy, because see, everybody wants to appear to be intelligent with their PhDs and MBAs, but see, I've known this all my life, and this, you know, even my whole family story documents how this is working out. You know, the people who, these, you know, people who want to appear intelligent, appear sophisticated, appear, you know, of the ruling class and the upper class, if you will. You know, they have to appear, they're not smart. And they'd be a lot smarter if they weren't so narcissistic. I mean, it's even documented in my divorce that I have above average intelligence. I'm highly sensible, they say in Spanish, which I guess means not sensible, but you know, aware of other people, and empathy, have a high level of empathy. And yeah, okay, I inherited my father's brilliance. And believe me, everybody wants to be brilliant, wants to be brilliant. People hate you for it. Oh, God. People hate you for it. Hate you, hate you, hate you. And women are the worst. I mean, my father had that, you know, he got it from my mother, my siblings. My sibling pulled that crap. I pretty much cut off contact with them after everything that went on. My parents' passing and the ceremony, and God, thank God it was all on Zoom. I even said, would you people look at this? This is worse than any bullying or BS that I've been going through in D.C. since I've been back, at the IMF or anyplace else. There's no freaking way. I have to put up with it here because I gotta keep a roof over my head. But until this whole house of cards comes crashing down, and I mean, you know, leadership, everybody's leadership. Oh God, Sarah Happel, leadership coach? No, really, Sarah. And you're American. You're up a creek without a paddle. I don't know who's going to be worse off, the Americans or the foreigners in this entire cesspool. So anyway, I guess that'll be all for today. You know, I'm just, as I say, only thing I can do here right now. I mean, I'm not going demonstrating out on the streets because I'm not going to, you know, jeopardize. For what? I mean, I've been to the demonstrations for I don't know how many years. I've given up on that. It's just people, you know, screaming and yelling, and that's why it's going to be either violence or the ones that I was there the day that Trump went through Lafayette Square and broke up the whole thing and dispersed the crowd to hold the Bible up in front of the church. I'd just gotten home, so I'd been there, you know, 45 minutes. It takes me about 45 minutes to walk. I was just walking in the door, and the TV was on, and I saw Trump going through there, and I said, "You've got to be kidding me." I was just down there. And in fact, one of the things that's disgusting me is, as usual, go to these damn demonstrations, and there's just mainly kids and women taking selfies and getting their photo taken to show to their friends that they were at the demonstration. It's just another social gathering. See, the example that all of you guys are setting with all of your, you know, going to parties and going to you know, schmoozing and cruising, believe me, I mean, I've been applying as a civil servant organization rep for every single spring and annual meeting since 2016, documenting how the ostracization is still going on. Believe me, I am documenting everything. By the time I finally find a lawyer, I know, everybody believes, you just, believe me, my family does the exact same thing with me. I send you some links to some of this stuff. I mean, that's why, see, networking, all of the bullies and everything are networking to maintain their networks. That's how they do it. You think these people do? I mean, independent, you're promoting independence. I mean, no one person, why is Trump in power? Because he's being maintained by the people around him. And why would all of these people, would so many people, be willing to sell themselves? I was listening to, what's his face? Is it Scaramucci? I think that oh God. Oh, he got a letter. Michael Cohen got a letter. I mean, I kind of throw him out there. I'm like, at this point, after I finish with you guys, I mean, I played around a little while for a couple of letters to different key people. I mean, I can't. I'm too exhausted to do it how it really should be. And if I had a whole, if I had a group of people, then we'd be doing it, across the board, documenting, what you're doing is bullshit, because what's happening is either they get it, they don't know what's this, oh, I don't know what this is, I don't understand, so I'll just throw it away. Believe me, I've been doing this for 15 years now, and none of the bureaucrats. This is why you're training. You can't train stupid people and amoral people. I mean, when I was up on Capitol Hill from 81 to 85, when I started up there, no badges, no security, nothing. People would come in and we would actually welcome constituents instead of being arrogant little bitches to them. Oh, believe me, Ocasio-Cortez, see, when Maxine Waters got in House Finance Committee, everybody up on that committee, all the staffers, I called the staffer, the congressional members, who's the staffer who handles this? Okay, fine. And I always send the email, then I follow up. Did you all get the email? Okay, please get back to me. But my favorite, my lord, Ocasio-Cortez. So, first, the arrogant little snippety bitch that she's got in there as a receptionist. I'm going to be making an example out of her. My God. If anybody pulled that crap with Patsy Geyer, they get raked over the goals. And if anybody in my office pulled that crap, they get raked over the goals as well. I'm going to enjoy making an example out of a little, I have had it with the little millennials who think they're God's gift to the world because they wiggle their ass in front of you 40, 50, and 60-year-old men who only care about getting laid and cashing in on the whole cesspool, and, our little bitches, the old ladies, particularly, oh God, somebody might like me, they just adore attacking. Believe me, I get it all the time in the restaurant business. But they've made a big mistake, because most of them are these immigrant, like with Melania Trump and it's us expat women, well, trailing spouse women who live in particularly the middle or low income countries. You should see the local women. That's a prize. the Europeans and American rich husbands, oh, that's a prize. A lot of these, they have their eye out. The one Joel Dugliani in Bogota, he said, "My God, you're one of the only wives who doesn't have to worry about going away in the summer, and you're the only one who stays." So, it was a nice compliment. But anyway, so yeah, I guess, you know, you guys hang out in your lockdown, I'll hang out in my lockdown, and I guess it's in God's hands, you know, who's going to be left standing of the COVID. And, you know, I just, you guys, when the violence starts, as I pointed out in my letter to Mark Lewis, I finally finished up. I mean, my God, you guys live in your little ivory towers. I live in the real world, and I always have, even when I lived up in a $1 million home. I mean, I got my $1 million home in Spain, and one of the problems all of you guys are going to have is that you're sanctioning systems that are illegally seizing assets of other people. You know about it. It's all over the internet. You know, I mean, I worked in ICD for 4 years. I'm telling you, you don't know any of this, though. If you admit that, then you just admit that you're too stupid to understand anything of what you should be understanding to have your positions. So you're really up a creek and a hard, you know, in a rock and a hard place, any way you move. So anyway, it is what it is. You guys, you know, you justify everything with, well, you know, you trophy wives, you opted out of the game, and you made your bed, now you can lie in it. And all of the homemakers who want to get back into the workplace, you know, your attitude is, well, it is what it is, and tough luck for you. I'm good. I'm Lee Topping Brady. I remember when you had the 30-year anniversary of the Brady bonds? Lee Topping Brady, she's the daughter-in-law of former Secretary Brady. She was a roommate of mine at Foxcroft. We weren't friends, but she was a roommate, so I know her. And I know her story. Believe me, when you know, this is why also you don't want women of my age getting back into the little game, the ones who have opted out, because believe me, you all of you just assume that I'm some, you know, hick from some backwater, you know, country bumpkin, just like everybody else, just like Paula Lucas. You think maybe I'm another Paula Lucas, far from it. In fact, Paula Lucas is not in a good space, and Elizabeth Lagrange is up a creek without a paddle. Olivia Graham, Gita Revendra, all of these people protecting your little protection racket there, so you can all keep your you know, your jobs that you've gotten because you know how to, you know, pass tests and brown-nosed people, because that's what our educational systems are all about, and the United, I mean, it's just been made into a money-making industry. You see that with the cases now going to the courts. You know, these Hollywood people who, you know, are paying. I mean, I even saw it when I was in school, you know, particularly at Foxcroft. I remember Mr. Smith. It was my English teacher, but I also babysat for him. He and his wife actually paid, or, you know, financed, because I made it babysitting for him my junior and senior year, for me to go and become an intern here in Washington during many terms, because my mother had forbid it. She was even going to kick me out of the house because I got a job. I was offered a job working for Patsy Geyer for the summer as the file clerk. The woman wanted to take a leave of absence. So this whole thing, I mean, my God, like that, I would have the ICD cleaned up. But no, you guys like living in your cesspool with Adrian Thapa creating chaos. I'm sure by now it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse. I mean, I believe me, I know I've seen this I don't know how many times. You want to see how it ends? Take a look at my parents. Take a look at my mother. And my sister, my older sister, oh gosh. She played her cards at the end. I mean, she's always criticizing my younger sister for being just like mom, but she's no different. And, you know, my brother, they destroyed him when he was young, and my father, of course, was all doped up. We found out at the end, because they disappeared. Long story. Say this whole erratic, you know, like everybody's like, oh my God, Trump, he's you know. See, if you understand their game, all this erratic behavior, it actually, I mean, it makes sense in the sense that it makes sense for them of what they're doing. And in order to combat it, you really have to understand what's going on in their heads. And see, the problem is I know what's going on in all of your heads. I mean, specifically, of course, not. But, see, this I even get into in my Family Courts in Crisis. There was a blog, an article that I wrote, you know, about biases. You know, you guys, I mean, in 2016, nobody asked me, why are you out here demonstrating on the streets with these banners saying that, you know, this is that being, you know, blacklisted from the IMF annual meetings is a coup d'etat of the Institute for Capacity Development in favor of Trump. I mean, my Lord, if I saw somebody, a former colleague that just left, marching up and down the block, and I mean, I was there sitting in the oh God, they threw me out of downstairs at the, what is that? Oh, I forget the name. They closed the coffee shop that was there. Paul as well said I couldn't be out there with my banners that I was soliciting. I was like, I'm not soliciting anybody. I'm sitting here with my banners. But I am not approaching anybody. I'm not asking anybody for anything. I'm not bothering anybody. I'm just sitting here with my banners. I got kicked out of both of those places. I had to go out on the, so I went out on the street. Now that's going to be a problem. See, this gets into my altercation with Adrian. It kind of, you know, was one of the things that started this whole damn thing with her. You guys just keep on wanting escalating. You never want to deal with anything. I mean, say, I'm sure you're the same in your homes. That's why your kids are all screwed up. I've seen it all over the world. What do you think I've been doing? I mean, all of this, you know, trophy wives don't do anything. You are the people who don't do anything. We're not the parasites. You all are the parasites. That's what I've spent the past 15 years demonstrating. Because all of this stuff, oh, I'm sure David Tiss and Hervé de Villeroche, the ED for France, had a good laugh when I applied for the job, or I said how I want to know the application procedure for submitting my application as president of the World Bank when Dr. Kim left. And that opened the door for Trump administration to name a new president. And I was like, oh Lord, Dr. Kim, how could you do that? You're a freaking traitor to the country and to the world. Throw up his arms because he can't deal with the exact problems I'm trying to deal with in ICD. See, if I went into the World Bank again. Whew. Oh, Lord. Hey, Kalari, we had a lot of World Bank people in. Oh, God. When particularly during the meetings, I'm like, oh, gosh, you guys. It's feeding time. I mean, you know, this is where the whole Emily Post stuff comes in. This town needs some lesson on manners and etiquette. Don't even know how to sit at a table, eat properly, you know, speak properly to people. I mean, these are basic fundamental things that you should be learning before you get to nursery school. You got PhDs and MBAs. See the damage that social mobility can create in a society? And that's why it was restricted. I mean, all of these things that, you know, these antiquated, ideas that you're all modern and you're going to modernize the world and get rid of all of these antiquated things. Well, a lot of the antiquated things, you know, social norms, they were there for a reason. Now, it wasn't the best solution. It didn't attack the problem. And that's why it just created other problems. But they did evolve over time for a reason. It's the same with monarchs and you know, the revolutions that came in. That had nothing good. And that's where I get back, you know, go to John Dickinson. And where all of my argumentation parallels John Dickinson. And I'm trying, I mean, desperately trying. We got to argue this, we got to argue this, you know, because we can't learn to you know, end our differences through discussion, whether it be at the macro level or the micro level, in our everyday living with our family members, with our communities, everywhere. I mean, this is what trickles up and down throughout society, and it's the people at the ruling elite who set the examples. And the whores and pimps who are setting the examples nowadays, you know, are creating just, as I say, a Mandevillian economic model. And that's not, I mean, I'm rooting for Adam Smith and the invisible hand. You know, that gets in. I mean, I told David Stockman, and I sent him an email, you know, through his contact thing. Look, the trickle down didn't work, not because trickle down is necessarily a bad idea, because yeah, it does trickle down, but if you have a ruling elite, because you can't, I mean, otherwise it's communism. Believe me, I was in Cuba, I was in Russia. That doesn't work. You need incentive for people to have social mobility. And this isn't a race war, this is a class war. White Trash is a book, White Trash, that demonstrates it well. So, you know, you do need a ruling class. That's what, when I saw the presentation by Mark Lewis about the Sustainable Development Goals. I don't know, some World Bank presentation he was doing. I forget what year that was, but recently, 2017 or so. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, Mark Lewis, I called him in 2016, July 2016, after the spring meetings, because with what I had seen, what was going on in Turkey, and it was his working papers that showed that trend there of over-indebtedness, consumerism, financial inclusion in banking systems that are high risk, high yield, corrupt, out of control, and that the IMF is the motor behind that. Well, okay, not the motor, excuse me. A participant, complicit. And since the 2008, they become, you know, more important or so in the the public eye or the international development eye, so they are becoming more powerful in that cesspool. What you are in bed, the 3 trillion just thrown at the banking system again by the Fed, up the ante from 1 trillion to 3 trillion, and this time you didn't even discuss how this was anti-capitalistic. Swept it under the carpet. There's so much bullshit going on and so much chaos. Oops, the Koch brothers, they knew what they were doing. And this has all been, the Clintons were a sellout, the Obamas were a sellout, Chris Hedges, again, he does a good job. Death of the liberal class. And there are examples. I mean, all of the books are there with the evidence to take this to the courts. Now, why won't any of the lawyers take it to the courts? Or any of the policymakers, start putting their money where their mouth is. Oh, yeah, I know, because you're too busy. You got a meeting you got to go to. And you got a cute young thing that you got to, sleep with tonight. So you got to, chat her up. Take her to lunch or whatever. Really. I mean, yes, I'm an old lady. I'm an old lady, you guys. I get it. Believe me. And I'm no competition for all the men you want. You can have them. I wasn't impressed with Washington. One of the reasons why I left Washington was there was no honorable, intelligent men in this town back then, and the cesspools just got worse. So believe me, you can have them. Now, jobs, guess what? That's another thing, and I know that's why, same with the feminist. I'm a threat to the feminist, and I know all of you people in the cesspool, I'm a threat because jobs, I mean, think tanks, all of the Koch brothers, where the strategy was inundate Washington with think tanks and think tanks and think tanks. The left has just joined that bandwagon, and we got total cacophony. And unfortunately, and see, the Koch brothers also, they were smart because this time, because they just pretty much copied how they built the Third Reich. And there was a lot of Germans, the Nazis, who came and have been involved in that. But I think they realized this time people's consciousness and I guess people were developing in their the Maslow hierarchy type of thing but we're regressing back. That's what they're also the objective here. Bring back everybody back to their basic survival needs, and then they can't deal with anything else because they just got a food in their bellies and a roof over their head. But get stupid people in, people who wouldn't wouldn't understand what's going on, and you see that all the time. That's why that's what you can see it flagrantly at the IMF. Is that you want the idiots like Ana Rosa, Elizabeth Elliot, Carla Kuladi, Jocelyn van der Hagen, Imel, Catherine Andre Nelson, Amy, I remember, there was Najette, Najette, bad call, Najette from GP, because when I wrote the blogs in 2015, when Adrian, and I'm not going to read them here, you can read them on another one, you can look there, I told all the girls there, you better look at those things, because I'm not taking the fall for everybody. I know this game. Believe me. First time I saw that was in Paper Moon back in the 1980s, and the same Lebanese idiots are over there. But, you know, labor rights violations, it was ridiculous, and so everybody, this is, you know, this is unacceptable, this is unacceptable. I said, okay, let's do it in a meeting, you know, in the pre-shift meeting, we'll tell them, and things have got to change, otherwise we're walking out. And, or we're quitting. I mean, I wouldn't walk out on somebody. And, at least I don't think I walked out. I just think I quit. You know, and when push came to shove, and in the meeting, and I stood up, and I said, look, sir, things have got, you know, this is unacceptable, otherwise we all, you know, we're going to quit. Who ended up quitting? All by myself. But I couldn't back down. I mean, this is what I tell people. You take a stand, you take a stand. You don't take a stand and then run away with your tail between your, you know, your legs. I mean, yeah, when I left Spain, I had to leave Spain. I mean, I knew, just like John Paul Jones when he, you know, had to leave the Caribbean. Was going to go to court. He knew they were going to go, you know, they knew he was going to be taken down. So, you know, and believe me, he was no coward. But when you know that you're going to lose the battle, you're better. Ask any general out there. You know it's a lost battle to begin with. You're sometimes better to sacrifice the booty and retreat and come back better, you know, another day when you've built your forces. Doesn't mean you give up. It just means that you got enough here on the noggin to know when to stand and fight, and when you gotta go for a retreat. Or even sometimes, my dad's came up at the memorial service when my cousin and my sister started throwing rotten tomatoes at me. Just walk away. I mean, yeah, there are some fights people will pick with you that just are not worth any time, energy, or any kind of casualty to fight. You know, it's the idiot. Go over there and go by yourself and amuse yourself because you're not bothering anybody. So I'm not going to fight you. You're not bothering anybody except the air around you. Well, then, you know, believe me, just being with yourself is punishment enough. So go off, you know. But, as, you know, when the whole thing started in Spain and everybody just wants to keep on getting on board and getting on board and getting on board. This is about, you know, look at my case. I know none of the secretaries or anybody else in ICD can understand it. But my Lord, if all of you, you know, particularly, you know, Mark Lewis, Harvard, you know, poli-sci major, Lucy Herman, she's at the Stanford Law. She was the one, she was, did something for the curriculum for the Kennedy School over at Harvard. Of course, that would have been after you left. But still, oh, you got, there's a black man I just came across the other day. I have his name written up there. You know, he's right. The most problematic out there are the ones from the Ivy League schools. You know, all the big wigs, they think they're so, you know, so smart, so, I mean, you can tell with Lucy, I don't think she understands the word I'm saying. In the domestic with the activists, one of the activists, she said, Quenby, nobody, their eyes glaze over, nobody can follow you. You know, and I said, well, because you're all over the map. I'm like, yeah, of course, since I'm looking at the big picture, everybody keeps on saying, no, you should focus, you should focus. I said, no, you are focusing. That's the problem. You are focusing into tunnel vision. Nobody's looking at the big picture. Except me. So, anyway, I guess it is what it is. I'm going to get working again. And so enjoy your day, everybody. And I guess we'll just keep on gathering evidence when I can finally. My latest, I hope. I've done some presentations. Brendan Sullivan. 15 years I've been doing my global search for lawyers. He, Keir Starmer, and more recently Robert Mueller are really kind of the only ones who inspire any confidence in me. Glenn Kirshner, I think his name is. I listen to him. You all should listen to him. And he's making a lot of good points about legal concepts. But the problem is, all of these points that he's making are not being applied. Most of the lawyers out there don't understand any of this. Really. I mean, otherwise, I'd have a whole slew of them for lawsuits of everything that's going on. The housing, the labor rights violations in D.C., you know, at the local level. And then at the national level, up on Capitol Hill, the White House, State Department, DOJ, everywhere. Everywhere. It's a frickin' cesspool. And Trump got in because nobody wants to clean it up. That's why you all want to shut me up. Some of you may not understand, particularly the stupid secretaries. Oh, she's just a stupid trophy wife, who, you know, no. See, the thing is because they don't understand, and they don't want to admit. It's the same with the PhDs and the MBAs, and this is the same with my family. My God, I've seen it all my life, and you know, them do it to my father. Since you guys can't understand the you know, anything other than going shopping or gossip, you know, you just belittle and berate and denigrate the other, you know, the person that you're jealous of. I've done this all my life, and it's well documented, believe me. My favorite is with the Spanish expat wives. They hated me because I always had to be doing something. Oh, this was common knowledge. Oh, then at Foxcroft, my younger sister, one of the Foxcroft girls told me, nobody could ever understand why she was always so mean to you. I know, I've seen it all my life, believe me. It's old hat. Yeah. You just, these are the people, you know, they're so stupid that, you know, they're not a threat. I mean, as I told my sister and my siblings after everything they went through, and my sister's trying to become the new dominator and take my mother's place. Well, see, my father's not around. It can't hurt my father. That's what kept me shut up. Not any intimidation from my mother or anybody else. See, that's where she's missed her game. She, you know, oh, she learned the Machiavellian. I've learned how to play Machiavellian games. No worries. Just like she did. That's why she loves to, you know, always card games. Anytime we go any place, she's got a game and she's always got to win. I'm like, whatever. Because I don't, you know, it's just not my bag. I've always been on. When she's off shopping, I got a book in my bar purse, so I can sit down and do something. Because believe me, we go shopping together. Oh my Lord, how many times can somebody look at the same thing? When I go to the store, I buy what I need and I'm out of there. I mean, okay, sometimes I go to Nordstrom Rack and go to the clearance because see if I can find a fine, and I need an uplift with all of you SOBs and whores in Washington. But anyway, so have a nice day. See y'all in court. Bye. Well, hopefully in court, because no, it'll be on the streets where the bloodbath starts, and that's not going to be a pretty sight.